Uh, Judy, I know could talk for a very long time about, but I think Barb is here and ready to introduce you as our guest this evening.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Thank you for being here. The title that I was given by you was Journaling Your Experience in the Natural World, Thoughts about Art, Writing, and Science. She's going to show us images and read passages from the book that many of us have read, The Middle of Somewhere, to exemplify how she merges personal observations with science. Suzanne Stryk has shown her conceptual nature paintings in solo exhibits throughout the United States, including the Morris Museum of Art in Georgia, the United States Botanic Garden in DC, the Eleanor B. Wilson Museum, which is a Virginia museum, not sure where, and Gallery 180, the Illinois Institute of Art in Chicago, just to name a few. I kind of summarized your biography, Suzanne,
I
a
hope
little
so.
bit. In 2005, a mid-career survey of the artist's work was done, and Second Nature, the Art of Suzanne Stryk, came out of it. It was organized by the William King Museum, an affiliate of the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, and images have appeared in numerous publications, including Orion. Collections that include Stryk's paintings are at the Smithsonian, the David Brower Center in Berkeley, California, the National Academy of Sciences in DC, the Thomas Art Collection, is it Wentworth? I wasn't sure about that. And the Taubman Museum of Art here in Roanoke. She is the recipient of the 2007 Georgia Sugarman Foundation grant and a 2011 fellowship from the Virginia Commission of the Arts in support of the environmental place-based series Notes on the State of Virginia. With that, I could say more, but thank you for being here, and please take it away.
Well, thank you. And by the way, Notes on the State of Virginia, the whole series, is what The Middle of Somewhere is based upon, the book. And it's now on view at University of Virginia. It's in a new wing of their Virginia collection that's part of the library's archives. I haven't seen it yet. I was just notified that it's now installed. So if you're ever by there, ever in that area, stop by. I would love to have an excuse to go up there and see it. But I'm also working on a new series, which I'll get to in the course of the presentation. Here in Southwest Virginia, I have a studio at William King Museum in Abington, and I've been commissioned to do a series of map and site-specific place assemblages for just this region. And what I'm getting at is, if you're ever down here, contact me, email, phone, whatever. Email's the best, actually. And visit the studio. I have a very large, it was the studio's old classroom. In fact, it was a science classroom at the high school, and still has the blackboard. And I have all the pieces in progress, and you'll see elk and mussels and salamanders and all these creatures. And it's been quite exciting. I go out with the Nature Conservancy or a wildcrafter or someone I know is an expert and learn about things. And like I said in the introduction to The Middle of Somewhere, I sometimes feel like I'm in a Ken Burns film without Ken Burns there and the camera crew, because it's like, oh, it's so exciting to have people take you out there and show you something. And I do sketches and journal. So that's basically what I was asked to do, share what I do with journaling. So now how do I share screen? I can put, okay, so I'm gonna go this. Okay, so here we go. Great. a slideshow from beginning. So I've had a kind of interesting thought pattern with the idea of place. I say taking the pulse of place, as if I can go out and take the pulse of place. And all of a sudden, the other day, like a few months ago, but that's recent enough, I thought, wait a minute, every place is different according to who you are and what kind of animal you are or plant. I mean, the way I would see a place is totally different than the way a raccoon would see it, or a scarlet tanager, or a mussel, or of course. But that was kind of interesting to me. How do other animals perceive their habitat, a place, and how do we? And what I feel is I do what I can, and that's, to me, one of the greatest things about being human. And I also love very common places. I mean, the local park, my yard, and extraordinary wilderness areas that are untouched. But I love this quote by Wendell Berry: "What you are doing is exploring. You are undertaking the first experience, not of the place, but of yourself in that place." And so, to me, to focus in on where you are, as all of you do, you learn the plants and the animals and the interactions as much as we can, but you also incorporate your own thoughts, your experience, maybe map making, or as I do, drawing and painting and writing. And you know what? I can't. Let's see. Can I? Yeah, I'm going to put this down. So, as I said, the middle of somewhere is based on the notes on the state of Virginia. And I traveled all around, and some of the places I was there for one full day or 3 days. And other places I had returned over and over again. And it does make a difference to the perception of a place. And not always that you know more about it the longer you are. Sometimes, like when I just went up to see the elk, it was, oh my gosh, I heard them bugling, and it was such an overwhelming experience. So I'm all for just being focused on where I am. And I want to read you one section, and then I'm going to go to one section of the middle of somewhere. And then I'm going to go to some ideas about writing in a journal. But first, I want to share with you. I'll see if I can find it in my book. Okay. How I personally like to synthesize many different things: science, art, personal perception, characters who are involved in my experience of a place, poetry, art history, anything that comes into my mind that is relevant, not the shopping list on the refrigerator, right? So I'm going to read from The Green Fuse, where I'm at a farm in Middlebrook, Virginia, right outside of Stanton. And I had taught a painting workshop. That's what I'm referring to. Week over, I stood alone on the farmhouse porch watching the mid-May sunrise. On that unseasonably chilly morning, I clasped a hot mug of tea with both hands, touching its heat to my cold cheek. I'm going to stop there for a minute. When we talk about journaling, we tend to talk about feelings and sight and vision and seeing. And notice how many times, and this is something I had to cultivate in writing, I mentioned touch or smell, and so I put the hot, and since this is not just a book reading, this is talking about nature, writing in your journal. So that's why I'm stopping to mention that. So touching the heat of the cup to my cold cheek. In the meadow before me, Black Angus nibbled shoots of fresh grass. I thought, right now, in each blade of grass, some tiny disc snatches a ray of sun, a spot of water, a molecule of carbon dioxide from the air, and presto, the plant makes its own food. In the process, the leaf tosses out useless oxygen, ironically providing life-giving breath to animals. Photosynthesis sounded too studied for such magic, so I searched for something better when a line from a Dylan Thomas poem sprang to mind. Still leaning on the porch rail, I whispered, the force that through the green fuse drives the flower, drives my green age. I inhaled, conscious of breathing a living equation. Sun plus water plus carbon dioxide equals sugar and oxygen, breath and life, the green fuse. Whack! The screen door slapped behind me. I turned to see John Sproul, a farmer in the area, Elizabeth's brother. It's his habit to swing by for some morning coffee and fresh baked bread. So, oh gosh, I have this little snake in, I'm sorry. I have the snake and I didn't put an image for that, for the right image, but that's typical. I'm so sorry. Um, one time I gave a reading and the slide projector wasn't working, and the picture of these carrots were up there all the time, and I was pointing to the slides, and finally I turned around and I said, "Oh, have those carrots been there the whole time?" Anyway, you saw a little baby black snake before I read about it. But so what I like to do, and I've actually and when I was in high school, I was like this. So I mean, I can remember thinking, why do we have to separate subject matter? Why can't we study nature writers in English class, or how to write about nature in science class? You know, and incorporate all the different studies as one. That would be pretty, it would be kind of hard, but could, if you encouraged it, I think people would be more satisfied in some ways outdoors. People, and this is a point I just made at the Blue Ridge Discovery Center, for students who are less interested in learning the names and the biology of things, and are more interested in maybe drawing a picture of it, or writing a short story about a farmer or a hiker or something. You know, there's different kinds of ways we enter the natural world, including the spiritual. And here's my take on the spiritual and the genealogical. Again, I'm going to incorporate a lot of things together. By the way, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so these green wings are orchestral, and I painted them green because the whole idea of the chapter is that the green fuse, that the green plants that feed everything I'm seeing, and these are grasses that I collected at the farm in Middlebrook, and then they fell apart, so I had to paint each one individually. These are nails from the barn, square nails, an old shoe, and the map part is right down here. And I put a map pin right where the farm is. I think it's right here, or maybe it's over here. Okay, so I'm going to read one more short section, and then I'm going to go to some advice about journal writing, nature journal writing. Late that afternoon, a gentle rain fell. So I pulled on my rubber wellies from southern states. With a neon orange poncho over my head, I trudged across land owned by the Sproul clan. But kestrels, voles, and black snakes also own the land. This turf belongs to the yellow-throat warblers who've been asking wichita, wichita, wichita down by the creek for centuries, long before Scots-Irish settlers staked their claim. A meadowlark declared its ownership, broadcasting "da-dee-da-lee" atop a snag in the emerald pasture. Same for the grasshoppers, snap hopping away as I brushed through soggy leaves of grass. Spittlebugs cowered in their foamy cover-up, busy sucking plant juices from their straw-like mouths. They too hold a deed in their DNA. All of these lives plug into the green fuse. Drizzle turned to downpour. I ducked into a dilapidated pigsty that hadn't heard any oinking for decades. While rain hammered the rusty metal roof, I stood scanning the dirt floor in dim light. Mementos of human lives scattered on the dusty, hard-packed earth like a canvas of found objects. An old leather shoe with metal eyelets, a dirt-encrusted cell phone, square nails, corroded china, chains, a red plastic comb missing tines, and rusty remains from farm implements. So, as I knelt on the earthen floor, examining a constellation of small ivory bones, the sun broke through the clouds, sending a shaft of light through the wall, illuminating my discovery. The shards of brilliant green pasture glowed through gaps in the wood planks, like a stained glass window in a cathedral honoring the living world. So, this is my handout when I teach a nature drawing workshop, which can last anywhere from a weekend to a week. And I always have a section on writing in your journal, but now that I've written a book, I have even more because people are interested. And these categories are not something that you have to follow, and I mix them up. I simply, to get these categories, I read what I wrote in my on my sketchbook pages, and here's an example of a sketchbook page, and you can see all the writing. July 15th, Piney Grove Preserve up here. Okay, so I looked at a lot of my sketchbook pages and I thought, well, what do I do? I mean, how do I approach it? And I don't think I'm going to approach it this way. It's not conscious. It's just very spontaneous. Sometimes I just put, well, let me look at this list. Well, first of all, I said there's no right or wrong. And don't feel that you have to scribble any of this down. I can send it to somebody or send it to anybody who wants it, or you can download it. If you want to. I really feel that one has to experiment oneself with writing. However, the only thing I really advise is to try to really listen to what you're thinking. Really listen to how you're really feeling. If you have a headache, say it. If you are just taking the garbage out and see a beautiful moth, say it. You don't feel that you have to say something that you expect someone who loves nature to write, because frankly, that's not getting to your inner voice and connecting to the natural world in the only way you can do it. So the first is basic information: the date, the time, the place, the weather, and identify some species. This is basic. The observations: describe your subject or the surroundings, like the tiny hairs on the plant, or the color variation of a bird, or the aspect of clouds on a particular day. So sometimes I just write the date and or the season, and other times, I mean, you saw this a lot. I write sometimes now. Let's see, I want to take this stop share for a minute and show you. This is the size of my sketchbooks, and I go from front to back with sketches, and you saw the turtle, and and then sometimes a lot of writing. Can you see that sort of? From back to front, I do what would be called more journal notes. They don't have anything to do with sketching. Can you see that a little bit?
Yes, we can.
You can see the writing. Okay,
Yes.
why I did that, and I also have ideas for artwork back there, because they'd get lost in other sketchbooks. I wouldn't even remember where they were. I always know that they're going to be back there. And you too, I mean, sometimes, when you're in the car or you're making dinner or something, you get the best ideas, and if you don't write them down, you forget them. At least I do. So that was a good way for me. And I write it in different directions so that I can tell that there are different passages, in different subject matter. But you could get an idea for a piece of jewelry you're making, or how to teach something better, or a way of hike as someplace you want to hike and why. So it's, to me, it's a, I don't use a cell phone for that kind of thing. I don't record stuff as completely. I write on the computer, but I don't record daily observations and daily ideas. But I think it's a good idea. It also helps you keep a kind of a sharper sense of writing, like what word is the right one. You don't stop. I don't stop and say, I won't complete this sentence until I think of the right word. But the brain starts to get sharper and sharper with its ability to describe things. The more you practice. Now I'm going to, oh yes, okay. So we're doing this. We were here. Okay, so questions. Now, a lot of people say, well, how did you learn so much about insects? Well, I've never taken a class in entomology. I started with reading. Well, I started with seeing some things that I really wondered about, cicadas in particular, when I was about 32, coming out of their nymph shells at night. And I was wondering what I was watching. So I went to the library and got out this wonderful book that's out of print by Edwin Way Teale called The Strange Lives of Familiar Insects. And I mean, that was the beginning of the end for me. But part of the way I learn about insects or anything is by being outside, drawing something and questioning it, wondering what it is, and describing it very fully. So here I've read this. I'm not going to read it, but I give some examples like this. Someone told me a box turtle is poisonous, so I can go home and look at it. So I write that in the sketchbook, and then I answer it. The sketchbook is the page continues when I'm home, and these days it's so much easier to find out information like that. If you can't find it actually online, you can find out some specialist. I remember when I found a Hercules beetle, and I wondered what it ate. I wanted to keep it for a few days. It's really great when you can keep something for a few days and watch it and draw it and then release it where you found it. And I found a woman, an entomologist in Nebraska, who could tell me it loves rotten fruit. So the process. If I were writing about that, I'd probably include her and include her answer. One of the things about writing in the journal is I still write in the journal like I don't know who I'm writing for. I mean, it's like who am I writing for? It's not it. I'm addressing somebody like I'm addressing. And I was thinking about that the other day. I don't know. I think it's a clone of myself. But if you want to get the right tone, the natural tone, and disregard all the formal stuff you learned in English composition, you can remember all the grammatical stuff. But sometimes we get really kind of uptight when we write. At least I did when I was younger. And I would pretend that I was writing to a good friend, and a specific friend. Who do I write? And one of them is my sister-in-law. When I'm writing her, I sound just like myself. The pauses, the idiom, the word choice, and so sometimes I can say, write like you're writing to her, and to make it sound more natural. oops, what did I do? Relating experience. Well, I really love a narrative form. I'm not big on exposition or writing about generalizations about things. You're experiencing something in the natural world, and you can write about the exact experience, make a scene, have somebody talking, pick something up and look at it and feel the turtle shell, or and relate why you're there. I mean, I've actually made little short stories in my sketchbook. It's like a way of entering the natural world in a very personal way, but incorporating science and the history of nature writing, which is creative nonfiction. Interpretation, and that's, interpretation is a big one. That's a category that's hard to describe, but it's more emotional and philosophical. I mean, I might have written something like the Wendell Berry quote as something that's philosophical. I could write, I'm hiking in a weedy field behind Lowe's, a big box store. Pick one, and I'm listening to an indigo bunting, and I'm finding these fascinating grasshoppers. And what is it about where I am that influences how much I value the experience? That's just, it's like you can go into a kind of interpretive or philosophical mode of writing, and it's a good thing to do, to learn about yourself reacting. How, again, back to that Berry quote, yourself in a place. And then the last category is notes for the future. And I'm starting to get hoarse, which I do very quickly. I listened to a lot of Margaret Atwood interviews, the writer, and she's constantly putting lozenges in her mouth, and now I know why. So with notes for the future, they're usually, for me, they're ideas for an essay or a painting. But everybody has his or her own thing. You're all involved with Master Naturalists because you're teaching other people about the natural world. And so you might see something yourself out hiking, you're alone, but then you get an idea for how you might explain that. And you can put that in your note. So this page is a typical page of lots of writing. And I was at Piney Grove Preserve, and this shows you, I'm not going to read from this chapter, but there's a chapter called Gaining Ground, in which I go to Piney Grove and meet with the Nature Conservancy caretaker. That's not the word I want. I probably have it here. Manager. He was a manager. Okay, so of this habitat, and we meet at 4 a.m, and I'm writing while he's talking, writing and drawing. And this is the source of those chapters in my book. When I decided to write the book, it wasn't while I was traveling. It was later. So I went back and I looked at what I wrote when I was there, and I had also maps and just other kinds of notes about where I stayed, but the conceptual ideas were all pretty much in my sketchbooks. But I want to show you what the drawing looks like in the book. So I took out all that writing for it in the book. Why? Because I wrote it in the book. I wrote basically that, and I wanted it as an image and not. Now, that was a big decision, because some people actually like the writing, and I do too. It has a kind of interesting pattern, and even kind of patchwork, and goes around the trees. I always think of a page in a sketchbook as a kind of habitat, and you do different things in it, and it shapes itself. I try to avoid being in any way decorative or like overly designed, because I think that starts to distract me. That's not necessarily wrong. Again, what works for me might not work for somebody else.
His quoting Bertie Blanc. Remember, he said,
Okay, did somebody have a question? No? Okay.
I think someone is not muted. Just
Oh, okay.
look to see if you're muted or not, somebody.
Okay. So when I've mentioned before that sometimes you're not in a place very long, but you're extremely sensitive to it, and you're trying to learn as much as possible about it. And so I'm going to read a little section from the chapter called Flyway. I keep thinking somebody's trying to get my attention. So, by the way, in each chapter, I give a clue, if not outright say it, but it's usually just a clue about why I did the assemblage like this. Now, this assemblage has a map, and that's the Eastern Shore would be right in here. I'm out, in that little peninsula that is part of Virginia, and I collected grasses that were there, marsh grasses, and that's on another layer, the map, and then another layer is the grasses, and another layer is the painting of a feather in a vortex. Well, why is that? I say at the very end of the chapter, I know I'm getting off of what I started to write about, but sometimes I think that digressions are the most interesting thing, including in your writing. On my final morning on the Eastern Shore, I hiked around Cummings Bird and Wildlife Trail. Suddenly, vroom, a sound like a blast from a gas oven lighting startled me as hundreds of ducks rose from the salt marsh. I'd frightened them into a whirring frenzy as they refueled for the next leg of their journey south. I froze, a still point amid a dizzying vortex of feathered life. So I guess I'm divulging something about myself here. Sometimes I'm very conceptual. This is a very conceptual piece. It's not species specific. Somebody wants to ask me, "Oh, there's parrots there?" No, I made all the feathers green. And if you could see the egg, there's a northern and southern hemisphere on it. So it's an idea of migration. And other times, I'm as species specific as you can get. So so let me read the part about, and this is about how much time do you have to spend in a place to know it. Later that night, now I've been out on a boat with one of the Nature Conservancy biologists, Barry Truitt. Later that night, a crescent moon hovered above the dark trees. I perched on the closed lid of the toilet to draw a tree frog clinging to the bathroom window. Sticking to the glass with tiny suction cup toes, it took advantage of moths attracted to my light. Every so often, its tongue whipped out to snatch a winged dinner. After each gulp, the frog hopped to a fresh position, its throat skin fluttering, reminding me of the thin white membrane of the egg I'd poached that morning as it bubbled in the pan. By the way, that's one of my favorite things to do. You're writing an analogy or a metaphor. Something is like something else. What is it like? Think. I mean, that's our human potential to be able to do that. And I say, let's use that. That's what poets do very well. And I'm not a poet, but I mean, there's metaphors in the Bible, there's metaphors in Shakespeare, we all love metaphors that make analogies that make an experience somehow become more viscerally real for somebody who's reading it. So then I go on. My skin felt thin too. Echoing in my mind was Barry's reaction to my comment that I was there for 3 days to experience the Eastern Shore, and from that, create an artwork about the place. What? You think you can know this place in 3 days? His mouth tightened to the side as he shook his head in disbelief. I felt like an idiot, but not for long, for I have ways of knowing, and Barry his. Just as the, oops, I'm sorry, I thought I had a different picture. Just as the whimbrel evolved a long curved beak to probe mud for supple bits of life, and just as the oyster catcher's sharp bill adapted to pry oysters from their clamped tight shells, so people have different skills. Barry can read ocean currents. He knows intricate waterways between islands. He knows shorebirds, eelgrass, and the shelled secrecy of oysters, and he knows island folklore. And me, I can let the soft membrane of my mind absorb a place. Art, too, is a way of knowing. I flip out my aesthetic tongue to seize an image, and here's the upshot. Art embraces mystery. I thrive in the zone that includes both ambiguity and knowing. Stop sharing. Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this point? So, does anybody feel like, well, if I'm teaching nature, I can't teach ambiguity and knowing, but what you can do is allow for it. And I think wonder has a lot to do with not knowing and feeling awe for what we don't know. Are you following me? Yeah. Oh, you're muted. That's right. You can't all.
Yep, part of our training, as we're training people, we let them know that you don't have to know everything.
That's
It's
very
okay to say, I don't know, but I know where to find out.
Yes, yeah. And don't you sometimes feel that when you're learning about something in the natural world and you finally do learn it, it just opens up more that you don't know. And
More
that,
questions.
yeah, and that I find fascinating. It was also when I did this project on Virginia, I thought I would know more about Virginia. I thought people would be able to ask me, like, where's the source of this river and what birds are residents in this area and my migrants, or I, I I don't know why I thought that, because what happened was I just realized that like Russian eggs, I just kept opening up more and more that I didn't know, and I'm less prone to answer something unless I absolutely am sure. I'm not going to say something that I used to say, oh yeah, that's this part of this mountain range or something like that. Wait a minute. No, it's not. It's everything is so intricate. That said, I feel that there's a special way that we all enter and can enter the natural world at whatever level we're at. So, okay, so it's 7:45 now, and would you like me to read some more or tell you about my new project? Or, I mean, I don't want to run out of time, and I should I just carry on?
I would love to hear about your new project coming up myself.
Me
Okay,
too.
yeah, okay,
Your book is wonderful, and a lot of us have read the book, although hearing your voice say those words is a whole lot different.
so I'm skipping this one, where I talk about using the genome and for the natural bridge and connections of art and science, which began in the cave. Okay, so this is my studio at William King. It looks a lot messier now. I took this picture when I first got in there. It's just chaotic now. But I still have this cabinet of curiosity here with my collections. I had to get a permit from the Department of Wildlife Resources to collect box turtle shells, just the shells, the snake skins, certain kinds of bones. I don't have a permit for anything to do with birds. You need a special permit for that. So I have made nests. You can see one here. Instead of collecting nests, I make them myself out of in different kinds of Southwest Virginia materials. And you can see the one on this is my work table is about coal mining. And I've rubbed the map with coal, and I have these openings almost like explosions, but they're also rather like opening up from the past, which is the coal and the fossil dragonfly here, to the present. So, oops. I love the idea that it's like an archaeological dig, exploring the strata. And so I like to have things underneath the layers of map and over it. So my process is to do a site visit and collect, sketch, and research, and then start the assemblage. So here I am with Tim Lane from the DWR showing me mussels at the Clinch River. And I put on a snorkel and a wetsuit and a snorkel. I didn't really need it, but everybody was doing it. And we spread out all along the Clinch right here, and collected mussels all day. It's called their Musselrama, but it's just fascinating. Like, he's telling me what species it is and how you can tell. I'm just fascinated by the ability to observe detail and understand creatures that some people have. And then I do a sketchbook drawing. I started it there. And then I did color when I got home. So, and these are the people I met. So some of it is just very, like, I just wanted to record certain things for the future. And this is pretty much a identification of the various shells. And this one was an endangered species. And then this is the piece in progress that I'm working on. So this is the Clinch River here, and this is the Starnes Bend is the region we visited that day. You can go to different ones. And so I repeated the shape of the shell. It opens up like a mussel shell. And then this is a large shell, obviously larger. The whole map is, let's see, it would be like 20, the map itself, this area is 27 by 19.5 inches. So I made a large shell based on what I'd seen there. And then a smallmouth bass in there. Does anybody know why I would have chosen a fish to put in the shell? I guess you're all muted, so you can't answer. It's because the fish has a symbiotic relationship with the mussel. The mussel has an organ that wiggles from a almost closed shell, and the fish thinks it's either a worm or a fish, goes up to eat it, and it's really the eggs of the mussel, which go into the fish's mouth and attach to the gills and spend the next 2 or 3 weeks there developing. So that helps the mussel, but how does it help the fish? Well, it doesn't hurt the fish, for one thing. It helps the fish in that if there are more mussels, there is more clean water. The water's cleaner. Here I am. I don't know if you know Monica Howell. This is Monica, and we're out bird watching. And so here's my note that day. First of all, I made a list of birds I'd seen. We're out at the Saltville well fields. And let's see if I can read it. The first part above the wing is really telling, now how did I do that? Is telling myself, what I experienced there watching birds with the group. But afterwards, it's like what I was talking about with the narrative, when you write in your journal a little narrative and an interpretation, because the last line is a kind of philosophical thing. Leaving the wetlands, I'm almost to 91 South when I spot two black vultures over a brown heap on the road's edge. A duck? I pull over to find out. Yes, a duck, a very mangled one, after the car and vultures did their work on it. But out of the mess of feathers shines a spot of green topped with a white arrow, widgeon on its last migration, meaning death, of course. Then I had a great opportunity to watch a scientist named Hyla Taylor. This is Hyla. I want to say banned, but it wasn't banning. It was tagging bats in the city of Bristol. Okay, here we are. I couldn't go down there, and I couldn't do it because you need a permit to actually do it, but I could draw it. And so there she is measuring and tagging them. There's one of the little bats. And we actually, right in the city of Bristol, where the Beaver Creek goes under the city, there's a bat nursery. I mean, it's amazing. There's all the females in the summer, and mostly females, and they have their babies, and they go out at night around the city and come back there. And I never knew it was there until I was asking around about bats, and Meg Short from the Nature Conservancy here in Abingdon said, "Oh yeah, when we're going out there in 2 weeks." So I was there. Then I did this sketch. I did that sketch of one of the bats, and then this sketch of the experience of watching the bats be tagged in the dark. So I was doing that drawing in the dark. By that time, but the other one, the one on the right, I finished when I was at home. But again, I'm writing what I already told you, and the radio receptors on the backs of an endangered species, the gray bat, the gizmos will fall off. So I'm basically just saying information at the top, but then at the bottom, and this is something that I think that we don't want to do in nature drawing, but I feel it's natural. In July, this tunnel was a maternity colony. I'm reading from the bottom of the sketch on the left, where female bats birthed and raised pups. Now it's home to male and female and different species, the gray bat along with the big browns. Nearby at the brewery, motorcyclists rev up, park, and make merry with beer and karaoke. Blondie's Heart of Glass, sung off key by a leather-vested biker chick, mingles with the delicate chatter of bats. A gray-haired woman clutching a cane hobbles by, calls out, "Looking at bats tonight?" So I guess it gives me pleasure to combine the scene. This is what I'm experiencing. I'm not out in the wild. I'm right in town where all these things are going on, and I'm aware of it. I'm not trying to shut it out. I'm trying to say, how does this relate to what I'm experiencing? And then I also went into a cave, it Appalachian Caverns near Blountville, and I called them first, and I said, I'm coming to look at bats, and I knew, and I had done some research and knew there were 8 different species of bats in that particular cave, and uh, and I said, and I, I don't know how I put this without sounding now sounding kind of snobbish, but I said, I really don't want to go and have you identify like this, this formation looks like a birthday cake or something like that. I just want to look at the vat. So they said, well, if you get there at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll be probably the only one here. So we'll just go and look at bats, which was just great. And at one point, the guide turned off the lights. And so I'll read it. I might see how pitch the darkness down there is. It's then I hear water droplets plip, pluck, or ping as they hit either stone or flowing subterranean creek. Not only that, but I sense what direction the dripping comes from. Amazing how when one sense is turned off sight, another sense becomes keener. And then I had the absolute pleasure of going out with Wally Smith to Flag Rock and to look for the green salamander. And that's Wally, that's me. I didn't get any pictures of him with the green salamander, but oh man, was that an experience. So I'm going out looking for them. I see nothing. If they are a very unusual salamander that lives on a cliff face. I mean, it has to have rhododendrons or some vegetation close to it so it stays moister than just a barren cliff face. So this is one, and this is where it lives, except that they're in crevices. So I didn't see any, and he's going, oh, there's one, and there's a juvenile, and it was just an amazing experience. These are all master naturalists. You might recognize somebody. So here's my note on it. A couple a color note, and then here's my working assemblage for it. I got a map from 1894. All the maps I now download from the USGS Geological Survey. They're free to download. They're not free to print. So I download the actual file, and then I have someone at William King who in the art lab print them to the size that they should be, which is about 27 by 19 and a half. So this was an old one, and I chose it for a number of reasons. One is because High Knob was right there, and it had such an interesting color and interesting to look at what's there and what's not there. Certain towns aren't there yet. And so I've actually changed it quite a bit. Now I took the feather out and I got a map maker's compass, which holds this section up here up, which has little people on it. It's very unusual for me to do something with little people, but my feeling was looking at the people going to High Knob and going at the lookout tower, and was fascinating to think of the human and nature interaction that I was experiencing. And here you can see little parts of salamanders. You can see them kind of peeking out, and there's various layers of bark. So it's, as I say, it's in progress. Oh yeah, and so I took Wally's paper on green salamanders and cut it up. I haven't told him yet. So that's his writing. There you can see green salamanders and High Knob, and there's the detail of the people on a piece of wood, probably red cedar, decayed red cedar that had only the knots were preserved. And then I went out with Carrie Sparks. I wanted to do a piece on wildcrafting, and though most of the pieces are very site specific, I wanted to do a general piece about Appalachian women wildcrafters or those experts in herbal remedies. So Carrie and I walked for 2 hours for about 20 feet. And by that I mean that every single thing she pointed out. And it was one of the most fascinating times. We were at Hungry Mother State Park, and there she is showing me something. And I did sketches on the spot, and then came back and did the color details and things she told me here and there. And now here I'm writing some things that I like about Greek medicine that I found out at home. So I'm combining what she told me and other things that I was reading. I also consulted another wildcrafter named Lori Briscoe, who lives in Damascus. And then this is the piece I'm working on, where I put all the plants into a silhouette of a kind of every woman, with bloodroot and ginseng and pipsissewa and horsetail and lobelia and many others. So and there's the walnut right there. So I'm working on that piece now. It's going to go over some general maps. So here's Cade Campbell, who's just a treasure, because it's so wonderful to meet a young person who's so knowledgeable and so excited about the natural world. I guess he's about 22 now, and he's showing us snails. And so I'm doing a piece on white top, and he's showing us the different kinds of snails found in that area. And here's my notes on it. And more notes. These are actually, this one is in May, and I had to go out with them again. And these are from the Naturalists rally and the Blue Ridge Discovery Center. And here's more snails from another walk we took with him. And then I also went snorkeling looking for hellbenders. So these are really rough. And, you know, this is an example, unlike where I talk about flyway and Barry Truitt's remark, oh, in 3 days, you're going to do a piece on it. Well, yeah, this is the kind of thing where I have too much, and I just don't know how to simplify it. So I have all these notes. It's completely different right now. I would not put kudzu leaves in here, but sometimes I just grab something just like that I have pressed to put in a part of an assemblage just to be leafness, and then I'll find something regionally growing there and desirable. But I did find these. I still collect things like this, because for general assemblages, they're beautiful in the way that they're eaten and decayed. Oh, I did put this one in. Okay, so I didn't see a hellbender. We went snorkeling to see them. I didn't see one. I spent hours looking, but you know, that was part of it. That not finding things is sometimes as interesting as finding them, if I decide that that's interesting. You know, if I decide, I'm not going to be disappointed. I have seen one, but years ago, a live one. Oh, okay, that's it. I do have, I want to stop share. I do have other slides, but I think we're at an hour now. So I'd like to open up to questions. And
we have a few in the chat.
Oh, okay. Do I know how to do that?
Well, I can tell you, one is, when is your studio open, or should we make an appointment if we want to come see you at your studio?
Yeah, you have to make an appointment, especially now, because I'm starting to take some trips again, and I also work here, which is I'm actually at my home, where I have a very, very small studio, and I go back and forth all the time, and so if you came up, I would have to know you're there. But I'm happy to meet you there, and so Suzanne Stryk, Suzanne.Stryk@gmail.com is the way to contact me, or you can call me, but email is really better. Because sometimes I just ignore my cell phone. I hate cell phone.
Do you have any classes or nature walks or talks that we could participate in the future?
I'm doing one at Hungry Mother State Park on May. Oh God, you want me to check? I better check because I'm
Or
not,
you can send it to me later or if you can check quickly.
well, no, I can't. I
Yeah,
mean,
you can let us know later.
it's a festival
Oh, okay.
at Hungry Mother, and it's in honor of Randy Smith, who passed away and was a big bird watcher.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I've gotten something about that. All right, we'll
Yeah.
check on that.
So I'm doing a 2-hour Sunday workshop. I think it starts at 11 and it goes to 2 or whenever we want to stop. I mean, which means that, sometimes people aren't finished. So we're going to start inside and I'll do a little demo and we'll do as much outside as we can, weather permitting, and drawing and writing. And you don't really have to be interested in being an artist to enjoy drawing and starting to record certain things visually. I have this one section about why draw when you can take a picture. Well, when you're spending that much time looking at something, thinking about it, observing it, you just learn more about it than taking a picture and walking away fast. It also takes a lot of patience. I'm actually writing a second book, and it's about keeping a sketchbook. And one of the things that I say is that the hardest thing I could teach you how to draw, probably, or at least draw better than you do, or start you out, and you have to practice. But I can't teach you how to linger and feel good about people around you thinking you're wasting your time. Like, you really just the time it takes to look at something is, to me, really precious. But even I have a hard time doing that sometimes. And that's why I like to take sketching trips, little overnights or a couple days away, and just do that. That's all I want to do. And there's no obligations at home or anywhere else, or family, whatever. So
You didn't turn the dishwasher on a second time, did you?
Do you have to register for the Hungry Mother event?
I think you do. I think it's free, but you have to register. On Saturday, they're having bird walk. Steve Hopp is giving a bird walk, and they have lunch and dinner, and they have if you participate, that you have to know. They have to know. So yeah. And
Okay,
I'm sure it's online. And I can send it to Barbara, and I can send it.
I'll do it. Yeah, thank
that'll
you.
be great. That'll be great. Yeah.
I think it came through on one of the bird link that people participate in around the state. I think it came through on that.
And then later on that month, I'm doing one of the field trips for the Blue Ridge Discovery Centers. That's near White Top in Troutdale. Naturalist Rally, which should be very special. It's the 75th anniversary of it. And 75th? Yeah. Oh, wow. I don't know. Do you all know Carrie Sparks?
Some of us do.
I
Yeah.
was able to take a walk with her when they had the Master Naturalist Rally
Oh, good. Yeah.
this year.
So she was instrumental in forming the Naturalist Rally. But now that they have a center with classes and classrooms, and they're taking the lead organizing it. And I actually did a session for their winter rally. They have one every season, but the spring is the one that's longest. Kevin Hammond will be talking about salamanders, and I'll do a drawing session in the after. I usually schedule them in the afternoon to get the greatest chance of the weather being warm. warmer, and I can do them inside too if it rains. So 2 in May, and after that, I don't have anything scheduled for a while. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Yay.
Well, thank you.
So
I
is-
hope-
Thank you very much.
I hope you do, you all do keep notes, and maybe I gave you a tip or two that will be useful.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
you.
Okay,
So-
Kara.
Are you doing your meetings now?
Yes, we are. Yep. You're welcome to stay.
Okay, I'll stay for a little while.
We don't have a lot in these. We focus more on the educational piece. But Chris may have some big news for us. I don't know.
I don't have any big news, but just a reminder that we're having our field day, work day on Saturday. So I'm hoping that most of you can come out to that. I know that there's one conflict with the Bluebird kickoff. But other than that, everybody should be free to come. I'm hoping the weather will be nice. I haven't checked the forecast yet. Barb, do we have enough people volunteering food?
I
Do-
don't think so. So I think Sharon and we talked about it. Sharon's the kitchen manager. And because only a few people have volunteered to bring soup, we're suggesting that you might want to pack a lunch and bring a lunch. But we'll eat Sharon, are you there? She was here.
Unmute.
I'm here.
Did any other people
No,
volunteer?
I've got nothing else on it.
So we're figuring people really don't want to
Have
focus
you
on
got Mac
food.
written down?
What?
Have you got Mac written down?
Mac? No, I never got anything from Mac.
Well, I
Uh-oh.
told you at the meeting.
You expect me to remember at what meeting I did?
Yeah, I'm bringing a soup. I don't know.
Mac,
if
This is
it's on
making-
the list.
I think
Did
this
you
is
let
making me,
know?
can I say, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is making me want my dinner, so I think. So
Thank
thank you
you.
all.
Thank you.
And I hope our
Thank you.
paths cross, and if you're ever down here, let me know and I'll meet you at the studio, or I'll be there or whatever. It'll be fun. They
I
are
think we'll
doing, I'll be there for about the next 6 months to a year. I get the studio until they have to break the wall out to make a entryway into the new part of the building, so. It has
I
to be
think we're
fairly
gonna have to
soon.
organize a road trip to come down.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
I'm all for that.
Okay, goodbye, everybody, and thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Can I make
Anyway,
one
I think
announcement?
I don't know, maybe with people who haven't let Sharon know, we will have enough soup, but we put it in the calendar as,
We can't plan the other stuff around it if we don't know what's coming, like the breads and the.
yeah. So, and only about 10 people last I looked have actually signed up. So we figured
But-
just bring your lunch but food was not going to be a focus.
Is the food sign up on Better Impact?
No, you can't, there's no way to do that.
Okay,
So
So
you had
it
to
was-
call Sharon or email Sharon.
okay.
Yeah, that was in Sandy's send out.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
at the water's edge, Barb?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Do you know about what time the lunch part would be?
Noonish.
Noon?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I'm asking, for those of the people that are on this call that are part of the Bear Project, I just got the shipment of the Bear handbooks today. And I'm doing that orientation of the Bluebird Trail at CRC in the morning at 11, but I was hoping that I could kind of leave there by noon and get out to Claytor Lake so that I could distribute some of the books to some of you that have ordered them.
I think we told Mary Rhodes and Judy, you would know, Aaron, is it Aaron who's going to do the
Yes.
other walk in the afternoon between 1 and 1:30?
Oh, good. Okay. Okay, so if I came to the water's edge about 12:30, that probably people would still.
Perfect. Yes.
Sounds right.
Okay,
Right.
so if any of you are on the call and ordered a book, I also bought some extras as well. I'll bring them with me. And then you can, I'll be able to distribute as many of them as I can at that location.
There are some relocated bird boxes there, right?
At the CRC, yes.
You're gonna have,
Actually, we
you'll
have,
to visit another time. Yeah.
we have 3 new ones. And we have 2 that were relocated, and Sharon and Jean both were on my email that I sent earlier today with a map of where they're located
Yeah, I
now
got
at the CRC. So, yeah.
Okay.
We'll go investigate.
Yeah, we'll check it
Okay.
out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can I make a
Okay.
quick announcement?
Sure.
If any of you are interested in volunteering at Claytor Lake State Park and you haven't done it already, go on to the DCR website and get started with volunteering. You have to fill out an application, you have to do a background check and all that. So if you're interested in volunteering out at the park, please go ahead and do that as soon as you can.
Hey,
Yeah, as soon
Judy,
as possible. They have a pretty extreme backup because of staffing issues. So you really need to get that application in soon if you're going to get any hours in at the lake.
you know what, Judy? I sent in my renewal, I guess it is, of the background check, like probably 6, maybe even 8 weeks ago. Do we get notified when it's complete, or who would know? Who would be able
Ryan,
to?
you still there?
Oh, is Ryan on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. The backlog probably goes all the way into the fall. I haven't seen anything like it, but you'll get notified when you're approved to volunteer once you did your online applications. So
Okay.
you should get an automatic notification.
Does that also apply if you're just renewing it? Because I had it, and I'm not sure if it expired yet, but I sent in.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it didn't expire, if your background expires, it will make you essentially an inactive volunteer. So we'll have to go back in your account and reapprove you once we get notified that you passed. But if it didn't, it was probably just updated. If you can go in there and log hours and access it, then you're good to go.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a try because I don't think it had expired.
Mhm.
So,
When
okay,
when you get into Yoda to put your volunteer hours in,
yeah,
it tells you right at the top when your background check expires,
okay, good.
when you get into the volunteer website.
Okay, I'll go in
They
there.
sent me a reminder that it was going to expire, and it was well in advance.
Me too. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, me too. But I did it anyway because I didn't want to forget.
yeah,
Okay, thanks.
Can I make a few quick announcements?
sure.
Okay. Well, number one, I'm going to be away for a few weeks, so there won't be a calendar. I put that at the top of last week's calendar. So board members, please feel free to send out any announcements for items that come up. We have several new projects. One is not really a new project. It's an old project. In fact, Steve Bridges has been doing it and has presented it as a project of the month before. It's the Coco Rajas. It's the the community weather recording. And they must really need volunteers all of a sudden because I've seen publicity in the newspaper and the library and a number of different places. So I did put information in about it in the calendar. If you go to the Coco Ross website, which I did, I just ordered my rain gauge, which is coming to me. You just do an online learning thing that doesn't take very long and place your rain gauge in the correct spot. And then you go online each day, your site gets a number and a like geolocation thing, and you go online every day and record your rain amounts, your precipitation amounts. It doesn't take very long each day, but they are looking for volunteers, so I just want to highlight that. There are 2 other new projects, activities that you could get involved with. One is called Cybermander. If you watch the state continuing ed presentation last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was now, it's a big research project that the Virginia Museum of Natural Sciences and the USDA Wildlife Research Area are doing together. And it involves, like, they just got massive amount of data, and they're asking the community to go and look at these pictures and say whether the salamander is on the floor or on the wall. And you go onto Zooniverse and sign up. I don't know if you've been on Zooniverse before, but we've done some projects before, like for the herbarium. Digitalizing the herbarium was one of the things we did on Zooniverse. And you just sign in, and they give you an image, and you click whether it's on the wall or the floor, wall, floor, wall, floor. And you can do 10, you can do 100, you could do 1,000, you could do 10,000. If you want to get involved with it, you would have to watch that video. And the way to watch all of the continuing ed videos that the state puts out is just go to the state Virginia Master Naturalist website, go under continuing ed, and all of the videos from the last few years are there. And they're really great educational resource for you. The other thing that I have not gotten involved with, but you can get all the information you want about it on Better Impact. It's called Flora Ambassadors, and it's using the Flora of Virginia mobile app to take people in the community out and show them plants and help them identify plants. And you have to do an online learning, and I believe you have to do some in-person training as well. I created an activity in Better Impact. It's called Flora Ambassadors, and all the details are in our Better Impact. If you go onto Better Impact and look under activities and pull up the Flora Ambassador, all your links will be in there. And I just want to put in a plug for the high school trail and the elementary school trails. We had the Bluebird kickoff for those trails this past Saturday. And then Sunday, my husband and I went out, we weed whacked them all, and we replaced a box that was broken, and they're all empty. We really need people to sign up. I know everybody, it was a lot of things were happening last Saturday. I know a lot of people couldn't get to the kickoff. But if you've done Bluebirds before, and Brenda sent you a Sign Up Genius link, please sign up for some monitoring. Thank you.
Going back to the Flora Ambassadors, there is a charge for that app. But
Yes, there is.
It is wonderful. It's $20. It's well worth it.
Forever.
I really encourage people to sign up for that. I also, for the Cybermander, I have stickers.
I've been doing it. It's kind of fun if you're stuck home for some reason in bad weather.
It is a great way to get volunteer hours on your own schedule. As she said, you can do as little or as many of them as you want. So you could do 15 minutes, you could do an hour, you could do hours. I don't know that you could be able to stand doing hours, but yeah.
So there are other projects on Zooniverse, and if they involve Virginia and they're related to wildlife, I mean, because there are other projects that are art and other in history that aren't necessarily related to Master Naturalists, but there's some things where they have wildlife traps. I did one, I didn't take hours for it because it was in New York and Canada, but it was really fun. They had pictures of just tons and tons of these camera trap pictures that they wanted to identify. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, researchers have a problem in that they've been collecting data for years, but now they've got to categorize this stuff.
Right.
And so people like us that are citizen scientists that are willing to volunteer can really help them process that data.
Okay, that's all I have.
Does anybody have anything else going on?
I added that our next chapter meeting is Grace O'Malley. I put it in the chat.
And the New River chapter of the Native Plant Societies are having a bare root sale. I can send you a plant list if you send, I put my email in the chat. And I'll give you a plant list, and there's bare root trees and shrubs, native bare root trees and shrubs, and some perennials coming in. So you have to order with me, and then you pick them up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the museum garden.
I think that's all we have for this evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.
See you all in a few weeks.
I
Have
hope to
fun.
see, I hope to see you on for our field day
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for continuing ed and volunteer time and a peanut butter sandwich, maybe.
We'll have more than that. Okay.
All right. Call Sharon so we know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.